Hello everyone, how's it going? Billy Ballgame here, back with another video. So this is my second time filming this intro, and I'm hoping I can get it right this time. So my first one was 6 minutes long and I hadn't even gotten into cards yet. But today I'm going to talk to you about my journey in collecting and what some of the circumstances that led me to switching my focus on buying individual cards, mainly focused on vintage, and why I switched from ripping packs and buying more modern cards. So I'm going to take you on a journey, and I'm going to show you basically three different eras of baseball cards that I have in my collection, and well, really four, and kind of why I wound up focused where I'm at today in my collection. So hang on, and I'll be right back with you. All right, and this is probably a pretty familiar story to most of you all, because I'm a Generation Xer. I was born in '75, and if you're watching my videos and subscribe to my channel, my analytics show me that you probably are too. So this story is probably going to ring true for a lot of you out there. But if you're not from my generation and you don't know or remember Fernando Valenzuela in his prime days, or you don't remember Kirk Gibson hitting that amazing home run in the '88 World Series for the Dodgers, you may not have the same experience. Well, you don't have the same experience as I do with my history of collecting. So use this as kind of a cautionary tale about why I switched to vintage. So this to me was a little bit ahead of my time, but some of you watching this video probably remember this being a huge chase card in 1981, Joe Charbonneau. And they even have a song about him in Cleveland. And Chris in his last video was talking about investing in like 100 Joe Charbonneau cards and maybe it not being a good investment. And I don't primarily look at cards as an investment. I'm a collector, but I'll tell you that if I spend $300 on a card or even $50 on a card, I don't want that card's value to go down to zero, like pretty much Joe Charbonneau has. So here's Dave Stewart. This guy won 20 games, either 4 or 5 consecutive years, and was part of the amazing Oakland A's teams with the Bash brothers that were in the playoffs every year. His cards would have had significant value in the early 90s, and now you could probably pick this card up all day for 10 cents or a quarter. Same with George Bell, really good player. Led the AL in home runs, I believe, in '87. I think he won an MVP. This was probably a $10 or $12 card back in the day. And a lot of these cards, like for a lot of you younger guys that collect newer stuff, 10 or 12 bucks is nothing. But back in these days, that was about the most value that you would ever, the biggest card you would ever dream of pulling out of those packs. Could be worth, 8, 10, 12 bucks. Frank Viola. So a lot of these cards through the 80s and into the 90s had significant value. Julio Franco. And some of you may say, well, of course they don't have value anymore because they're junk wax era cards. And you would be right in that statement. And I started hearing the term junk wax thrown around in the late 90s, early 2000s. Definitely by 2007 or 8, I was hearing the term junk wax thrown around. And a lot of these cards, were probably worth anywhere from $3 to $10 back then. So, yes, most of these cards don't have a lot of value because of the junk wax era. And we're not even really in the junk wax era yet. And then a lot of them don't have value because the players didn't pan out. Here's a perfect example. Glenn Davis came into the league like a house on fire and had a couple 30 home run seasons, and everybody thought he was just going to be a beast. but he really couldn't maintain it long term. Same with Danny Tartable. So a lot of these players, yes, they're from the junk wax era, but they had good careers, and their cards held significant value back then. Part of the problem is they couldn't maintain that and didn't end up in the Hall of Fame. And I'm going to fast forward a few years here. So here are just more examples. Here's Andres Galarraga, Corey Schneider, Cecil Fielder. This was a huge chase card back in 1990 or 91, whatever year he hit 50 home runs. Kevin Mitchell, another huge player back in the day. Matt Williams, same thing. So a lot of these guys just couldn't maintain their career pace and end up in the Hall of Fame, right? But if they could have ended up in the Hall of Fame, would their cards have any value? And most of these era of cards, even for Hall of Famers, their cards don't hold much value. This was a $5 card once upon a time. Another big one back in the day. Matt Williams. So a lot of these guys weren't able to maintain their careers and end up in the Hall of Fame. But during the junk wax era, even the Hall of Famers, unless they grade really high, still don't have a lot of value. And this may be an overstatement, but I really do feel that my generation, Generation X, those of us that were born in the 70s, were the first generation to grow up thinking we were going to be able to retire and send all of our kids to college off of our baseball card collection. Tom Glavine's a Hall of Famer. Randy Johnson's a Hall of Famer. More Randy Johnson cards. And these you could buy in quarter boxes all day long of Hall of Famers. And maybe these are, low to mid-level Hall of Famers. And their rookie cards, no matter what era they came from, are not going to have a lot of value. I would agree with that. But even a King Griffey Jr. card from 1989, unless it's his upper deck, excuse me, doesn't hold a lot of value today. And granted, these are from the junk wax era, so they were everywhere back then. And every single one of these cards you could get probably out of quarter bins, maybe $1. And they were worth significantly more than that back in the 90s. And here are even some bigger cards. Derek Jeter, and then his upper deck. Right? So these may have a little bit more value to them. You could probably pick them up for $5, right? So I'll fast forward a few years. Now we're going into kind of the later part of the 90s. Here's another example. He just couldn't maintain. This was an $8 card back then. This is a 98 Bowman, I believe, or 99 Bowman. 98. Carlos Lee was a good player. He's not in the Hall of Fame. He couldn't maintain long term. Ruben Mateo, this was a huge card back in the day. Most of you have probably never heard of Ruben Mateo. This was an $8 card. Corey Patterson was a huge hot shot prospect back in the day. And Mike Moynihan unfortunately knows all too well about the story of Josh Hamilton. So a lot of these guys had good careers, but they're not in the Hall of Fame and never will be. These are really, we're out of the junk wax era here. But these cards, that's Eric Chavez, these cards don't hold any value. All prospects. All of these were prospect cards that were worth a lot of money back in the day. Everybody remembers Nomar. Everybody remembers Jermaine Dye. And that's even an autograph. I could probably sell that for $2. And he was a pretty good player and had a long career. So What worries me about the modern stuff is for every one rookie that pans out and ends up being a really good player and making the Hall of Fame, there are 50 or 60, if not more, that don't pan out that are never going to make the Hall of Fame. Here's some graded cards. Anthony Rendon. What happened to him? Where did he go? Brian Anderson. Michael Conforto. Gavin Lux. Dustin May. Jack Flaherty. And this one hurts really bad because he's a former MVP, and I really hope he can turn it around. Cody Bellinger. What is this card worth today? 15 bucks, maybe 20. Graded in a 10. So a lot of these players, even guys I like, of newer players, Fernando Tatis, the vast majority of them are not going to make the Hall of Fame. Ronald Acuna. And like Ronald Acuna, Fernando Tatis, they're great players. Ozzie Albies might go down as one of the best hitting second basemen in the history of baseball at the rate he's going right now. But what are the odds of these guys making it into the Hall of Fame? Some of them aren't going to be there. So yes, the junk wax era was everywhere. The cards were everywhere. But so are the modern cards. And a lot of these players are not going to make the Hall of Fame. So what kind of value are they going to hold long term? And I like a lot of these players. But I'm sure half of these guys, if not more, won't make the Hall of Fame. Even of the graded cards that I'm showing you in this second stack after Cody Bellinger. Jose Ramirez. So yes, these cards are everywhere. And some of these players aren't going to make the Hall of Fame. But if Kyle Tucker makes the Hall of Fame, long term, what is his pink refractor going to be worth in a 10 even? Because these aren't hard to find. And here's another one. Here's Vladdy Guerrero Jr. This is his Topps update. His short print, right, with the no number on the back. This was air quotes hard to find short print that I pulled out of a hanger box. So what's crazy to me is it wasn't a huge loss back when I was a kid if I bought a 50-cent pack and didn't pull any good cards out of it. Here's another one. This was a big card a few years ago. So that, losing out on a 50-cent pack, that's not a huge deal. So these are a lot of guys that just didn't pan out. That their cards had value, but they didn't pan out. So a 50-cent pack, no big loss, right? But nowadays, people aren't paying 50 cents for a pack. Nowadays, people are spending 5, 10, 15, 20 bucks for packs and blaster boxes. And some of these parallels of some of these rookie cards that people are buying, they're not $8, $12 like an expensive card was when I was growing up. They're hundreds of dollars for the right parallel of the right rookie or a Bowman autograph or something like that, right? So the vast majority of these cards aren't going to hold value. Even some really good players like Brandon Woodruff. So just the cost and the value of the newer cards for prospects that are unproven or younger guys that have had a pretty good career, just some of the prices that people are paying for these cards, to me, and I'm not telling anybody to collect, it's your money, you spend it how you want. But for me, I'm kind of risk adverse. So I love Vladdy Jr. I love Ronald Acuna. I love Tommy Edman. He's a he's a current Cardinal guy, right? Um, so for me, it was just scary the amount of money I was spending on cards for up and coming prospects that of cards, number one, that are all over the place, that are not hard to find, knowing that most of them are going to wash out or not live up to the hype and not end up in the Hall of Fame. So for me, it was just too risky. I was spending, about the same budget I am now buying vintage cards. But back then, I was spending it on packs. And so to me, it's just a lot safer way to spend my money by buying vintage. So instead of buying a $20 blaster box, looking for, I don't know, who's the new hot upcoming rookie this year, Ellie De La Cruz in 2024. So instead of spending $20-$30 for a blaster box looking for Ellie De La Cruz, I would rather buy an Andre Dawson rookie card, because Andre Dawson is already established. His legacy is established. He's a Hall of Famer. And this card may not go up as much as an Ellie De La Cruz if he ends up becoming the next Derek Jeter or somebody like that. So this doesn't have as much upside as an Ellie De La Cruz. But I'll tell you what, it doesn't have near the downside as these newer cards and newer rookies have potentially, especially for some of the prices they're going. I would rather, this isn't his rookie card, but just another example. I'd rather pay $40 for a 71 Topps Willie McCovey, or a 72 Topps Carlton Fisk rookie card. This was a $25 card that I bought a few years ago off eBay. And then, or a Ricky Henderson. This is about a $40 or $50 card. So to me, would you rather have this card, or would you rather have this card? That's maybe not a good comparison, right? Because Clayton Kershaw's going to be in the Hall of Fame. But at one point in time, this card was probably worth $50. In a 10, it's not worth that now. So for $50, who would you rather have? Would you rather take a chance on the upside of Vladimir Guerrero Jr., or would you rather buy a card of a known Hall of Famer and just an all-time baseball legend? So those are just kind of my thoughts on my journey in the hobby and kind of where I've shifted gears collecting to where I'm at today. So, I would rather buy a card like this all day long than go out and buy 2 or 3 hobby boxes in a month, or, 5 or 10 blaster boxes at Walmart. Because, again, we know what Lou Rock is. So I think long term, this is going to hold value more than most of the stuff that I'm going to be able to get out of modern packs. And those players are nostalgic to me. Again, I love Will Smith. I think he's a great catcher and got a chance to become one of the best catchers ever. But he's not there yet. And I don't have the same level of nostalgia tied to Will Smith as I do for Carlton Fisk. All right, so again, this isn't meant to be a soapbox video. This isn't meant to put down modern collectors. It's not even meant to put down modern cards. Everybody knows that I'm a collector on a budget, and I'm risk adverse. So for me, it makes more sense to me to spend my $200 a month, baseball card collecting allowance on vintage players of guys that are established and I know long term what their legacy is in the hobby. So for those of you that collect the modern stuff and you chase the Bowman prospect first autograph cards of the next up and coming hot prospect, do what you're comfortable with and what your budget can afford. I would just advise you to please, especially with some of the money you guys are spending on this newer stuff, please be careful because the vast majority of these guys aren't going to pan out. And even the ones that do pan out and have amazing careers, their cards aren't going to hold value for a lot of them long term, even if they do make the Hall of Fame, but especially if they don't. So here's another example. Here's a Bowman's Best 1989 Sammy Sosa. And I'll tell you, in 1999 or 2000, this was a $50 card. And now I would be happy to be able to get $5 out of it because I probably couldn't even get that for it now. So just please be careful, especially with the money you guys are spending on newer products and the amount of money that the new hot shot up and coming rookie in a black or a gold parallel are going to cost. And I just showed you, a Dave Fleming gold, Topps gold, that probably at one point in time in 2020 or 2019, this probably would have been a $20 or $50 card. It's probably a $2 card right now or $3 card. So the value of a player can turn dramatically very quickly. So please, everybody, be careful with your money. Please don't overextend yourself and collect outside of your means. So really, that's all I have for you. And this video was longer than I meant it to be, but sometimes I get to talking and I get all over the place. So my apologies. If you've stuck around for the entirety of this video, I really appreciate you all supporting the channel. And that'll wrap it up. So until the next one, everybody have a good one, and I'll talk to you later.